On Thanksgiving, with the turkey steaming and Grace half said, my son raised his glass and sneered, "If you vanished tomorrow, Dad, we wouldn't miss a thing. We'd just find a better wallet." Laughter clinked like silver on china. "An ATM in shoes," someone added. I set the carving knife down, the room tilting under the weight of their smirks. No scene, no speech, just a quiet decision hardening in my chest. That night I packed a bag. By dawn I was gone along with every dollar that kept their world warm. He wanted to live without me. Fine. I'd teach him what gratitude costs. Imagine you were in my shoes right now. What would your next step be? Comment below and let me know what you think. Thanksgiving was half prayer, half football when Ryan lifted his glass and went for blood. "Let's be honest," he said loud enough to make the silverware pause. "If this old man vanished tomorrow, we wouldn't miss anything but his pin. He's a wallet with a wedding ring, a paycheck with a pulse." A cousin snorted. Someone said, "Savage," like they were grading a joke. Phones tilted to catch reactions. Mine didn't matter. I held the carving knife over the bird. The blade caught a thin ribbon of light, a bright line I could have followed into a speech, an explosion, a scene they'd later call overreacting. Ryan wasn't done. "Raise your glasses to the bill-paying appliance," he added, eyes on me. "Not with love, never with love, but with the lazy contempt you save for furniture that squeaks." I put the knife down, not hard, just enough for the board to hear it. The room smelled like sage and butter, and the sweet burn of marshmallows going too brown. 12 people studied the gravy boat, the centerpiece, their thumbnails. Laughter traveled around the table like a rumor. My jaw clicked, old bone, old habit. It was louder to me than all of them. "Lighten up, it's a joke," a nephew said, pity stretched thin over his grin. I folded my napkin. Stood. Walked the gravy to the kitchen and opened the back door. Cool desert air slid along my face, clean as a decision. Through the glass, I watched my family lean back into eating, their shoulders drop, the ripple pass. Ryan tossed another line to keep the party buoyant. The knife lay where I'd left it, a silver slash across the turkey's skin. When did he stop seeing me? Not the payer, me. The man who taught him to break on gravel without spinning, who counted to 10 at the free throw line, who drove him to practice in a truck that rattled and sang. When did I become a subscription they forgot to cancel? I came back in and sat. Ate what was in front of me, tasted none of it. When the pie made its rounds, I smiled and shook my head. The television murmured a touchdown. A niece filmed a slow pan. I could hear the caption forming, "Family, gratitude, blessed." After the front door closed on the last goodbye and the dishwasher began its familiar hum, the house exhaled the way houses do when the audience leaves. I went to my office. One lamp, one drawer, a duffel, a small black book where numbers live, a key I hadn't touched in months. My thumb traced the callus at the base of my fingers, the one you earn by carrying weight without complaint. I thought of speaking to him, of listing, like a receipt, the nights, the miles, the checks, and I saw his face as he'd wear it, bored, amused, above it all. The pain slotted in, heavy and correct. Then it cooled. It didn't shrink, it didn't heal. It hardened into something with edges. He wanted life without me. He announced it with a toast. Fine, not revenge. A lesson. Gratitude isn't taught by speeches over burdened starch. It's taught by absence, by the cold when the door stays closed, by the quiet when the account doesn't sing. I closed the drawer, turned off the lamp. The house went dark in sections like a city grid. The house went on pretending. Dishwasher hum, HVAC cycling, the faint aftersmell of cinnamon and wine. I sat at my desk with a single lamp and opened the laptop. Password manager, banking app. The blue glow made my hands look like someone else's. Manage payments. The list was a map of a life they thought was automatic. Power, water, internet, streaming, insurance. Are you sure you want to disable autopay? Yes. For each one, yes. The little toggle slid gray. The screen kept asking if I understood the consequences. I did. Next, the credit cards. Remove authorized users. Ryan's name blinked at me, casual as a nickname. Remove, confirm. The card company wanted a reason. I typed account maintenance. I changed the pins anyway. I closed a browser window and saw my reflection ghosted on the black screen, a man nobody had toasted tonight. I took the cold wallet from the safe and a small sealed envelope from the bottom ink faded, a date in my handwriting. I didn't open it. I just checked the seed phrase was where it should be, and put both in the duffel with the passports, the small book where numbers live, the key to a box downtown. NDA copies sat in a folder. They stayed. Paper wasn't coming with me unless it had to. In the kitchen, I left my phone on the charging pad, face down, as if it had fallen asleep. The charger's faint ring of white light glowed around it like a halo you didn't earn. I slid my work keys onto the counter one by one, metal touching stone with a private honesty. From the garage, I rolled the duffel to the car and paused, listening for the creak of a floorboard, the cough of someone waking. Nothing. The opener lifted the door with the softest chain rattle it knew. Night air came in, cool and dry, smelling of dust and the orange tree by the fence. At the gas station on the frontage road, I bought a burner phone with cash and a paper map I didn't need. The clerk didn't look up. A coyote crossed the empty street like a thought you don't say out loud. At the ATM, I withdrew what was mine to withdraw and left what was theirs to face. I wasn't stealing. I was stepping away from a machine they mistook for me. The motel sign flickered vacancy, one letter dead. The room was beige on beige, a bedspread that tried to look like a pattern, a desk that tried to be a desk. I put the duffel on the chair and sat on the edge of the bed, shoes on, jacket still zipped. The heater made a sound like distant rain. I sent one email to myself with a list. Contact attorney, secure box, P.O. box, new account, new number. I read it twice and deleted it. No trails if I could help it. No speeches either. Lessons don't announce themselves. At 4:20, I drove to the bank, parked in the empty lot, and watched the sky pull a pale line over the superstitions. The city lights blinked like tired eyes. Somewhere, a newspaper thumped a driveway. Somewhere, my house slept through the last hour. It would be warm without asking why. I tapped through the last setting in the app notifications. Off, off, off. The final prompt read, "You will no longer receive alerts." Good. Neither will they, not the kind they like. They'll get a different kind. Let the first payment failed teach what speeches never could. At a diner that still puts real butter on the counter, I opened my laptop and signed into the portals they never knew existed. Past due in orange boxes has a particular way of speaking. Autopay failed, the electric reads. Please update payment method. Water, internet, insurance, same tone, different fonts. A month of comfort looks thin when you strip the autopilot. I closed the lid and listened to plates land, the coffee pour, the quiet drag of a cook's shoes on tile. The world goes on when your house begins to wobble. It's almost offensive how steady a good diner stays. At the library, I used a public terminal to check two more. Mortgage. Returned. A red banner offered a number to call if this was a mistake. It wasn't. I drove a block past the house and parked under a Palo Verde while the sun hammered the hood. Our street looked like every Thanksgiving weekend photo you've seen, flags half wrapped on poles, inflatable snowmen not yet plugged in, a ladder left out by a neighbor who started early. From here I could see our front walk and the note taped to the door by the internet provider. Ryan came out, bare feet, squinted at it, tore it down, and stood there with the paper limp in his hand, as if it might stiffen into a solution. He called someone. He paced. He looked toward the garage like it might still be a bank vault. I pictured my phone lit on the kitchen charger, buzzing into an empty room like a toy with no child. That night I drove by again from the other direction. The kitchen window usually threw a yellow square onto the gravel. It didn't. The house looked like someone pressed pause on it. A shadow moved across the living room, Ryan, probably, holding the glow of his own screen up to the dark like a candle. By Tuesday, a white truck with a logo took the curb. I felt it before I heard it, the shift you feel when a thing you spent years paying for forgets your name. The worker walked around the side gate with a clipboard. No hurry, no malice, just a man in a job that doesn't care about context. Ryan burst out the door, shirt half on, hands up in a plea I couldn't hear. The worker nodded. The way you nod when you've answered the same question all morning. I can't. He opened the panel and did the small motions of ending gloves, a meter key, a practice twist. I rolled the window down. Heat slid in with the smell of creosote and hot dust. Somewhere a dog barked the way dogs bark at routine, that tone that says, yes, this happens. When the worker finished, he pressed something, and I heard it. A click soft enough that you could mistake it for a thought. Inside the house, the refrigerator quit humming. It's strange how loud silence is when a motor stops living. Ryan stood still, then turned a slow circle, as if the light might come back because he wanted it to. I put the car in gear and pulled away before he could look down the street and see me. My hands were steady on the wheel. The ache was still there, heavy and correct. The edge of it kept me honest. Lesson 1 delivered. Not by my mouth, by the quiet. The glass doors at Pioneer X breathed people in after dark badges up. Shoulders set, that fluorescent hum that erases time. I sat in my car across the lot and logged into the board observer portal. New hire roster. Night shift. Ryan Cole. A timestamp. A generic employee ID. A training module, already marked, in progress. My son had discovered that rent asks different questions than pride. Through the lobby's aquarium glow, I watched him lift a lanyard, tap the turnstile, hesitate half a heartbeat, then go. The elevator doors closed on his reflection. I didn't follow him in. I opened the investor dashboard instead. Support queue, anonymized. Lines of text marched like a heartbeat. Ticket 44,783. I'm 71. That was my retirement. Agent, RC. Response draft. We can't reverse blockchain transactions. Supervisor note appeared seconds later. Tone. Acknowledge loss first. Script 5-3. I could see him in my mind anyway, headset crooked. The too bright coffee, the way you speak softer when a stranger cries on a line you can't fix. On another monitor, the quality team surfaced a redacted clip of floor audio. Not voices, just spikes and dips. A visual of other people's panic. The system tagged training items to his profile. He was learning compliance, because compliance keeps people from bleeding more. He slipped once. A meme link pasted into a private chat, Boomer Wallets, with a cartoon ATM. HR flagged it. A yellow triangle blinked beside his name. I watched the triangle go solid, then gray out after he clicked an acknowledgement box. Small consequences, registered in quiet places. At 2:15, the status board spiked. A phishing wave hit the platform, 100 tickets at once. The kind of night that turns heat into static behind your eyes. I saw RC, open 5 at a time, close 2, escalate 1. Please secure any remaining funds to a new wallet. The template taught him to type. He typed it. On my screen, a different tag slid into view, one I knew the bones of, reimbursement authorized. The line expanded, metadata blooming. Source, NC, Relief Fund. Case, Senior Fraud, Hardship Verified. I felt it in my hands before my mind named it, that old edge anger and something colder. He would see that tag in his queue history if he clicked. He would wonder what NC meant, why strangers were helped when his lights went dark. He would not know the years or the rules under it. That was by design. Through the glass at 3 a.m., he walked out to the vending machines, palms pressed to his eyes, then back in, swallowed by the light. The elevator doors shut again. Somewhere upstairs, an elderly voice on a line kept saying, "Thank you for staying with me until it was done." I closed the portal and let the dashboard disappear into my reflection. Night hung over the lot like a held breath. Inside, he was earning a wage. Outside, I held the boundary. On the investor page, the tag still glowed. Reimbursed via NC Relief Fund. The next night, the building hummed like a refrigerator, swallowing faces into its light. On the observer console, HR's pain over his profile pulsed. Acknowledgement received. Code of conduct refresher assigned. The meme had earned him a warning at 3 a.m. Small gravity, but gravity. His cue steadied into a rhythm script. Empathy, escalate. Close until 3:12, when a case he inherited unfolded a quiet line. Reimbursement authorized. He clicked View History. The tag sat there, black text, no flourish. N. Cole Trust. He didn't move for a full 5 seconds. The cursor hung like it was waiting for him to breathe. Then his chair scraped. He pushed back, jaw set hard enough to square his face. He looked up past the monitor, past the ceiling, like someone had just opened a window in winter. Through the lobby glass, I watched him stand at the break room sink, run cold water over his wrists, then stare at himself as if the mirror had said something unforgivable. He came back and typed fast into a private channel. HR's capture popped to my console with the violation. Love it when whales play hero for randos while their own go dark. The system boxed the sentence in yellow and stapled it to his file. Policy did the part I could not name the contempt. He slammed the mouse once, too loud. The agent beside him flinched. He mouthed, "Sorry," then rubbed his eyes with the heel of his hand like he could push the heat back in. The supervisor's note arrived seconds later. "Remove commentary. Stick to scripts." He clicked, "Acknowledged." His neck stayed flushed. At 4, he cut through the lobby and out into the night air for 15 seconds, phone to his ear. The glass gave me pieces of his voice. "No, he's not broke. I saw it in Electrifying Trust. Strangers get money, Mom. Our lights." The rest blurred in traffic hiss. He turned away from the camera dome, shoulders slightly curled, not the shape of a man ready to fight, the shape of a man trying not to fold. Back inside, he pulled up the case history again. The tag didn't change. He minimized it like it might stop existing if he made it small. His hands were careful after that, as if the keyboard could judge him. He avoided the agent beside him. He avoided looking at the lobby glass. Shamed as that reroutes the eyes. On the observer console, his access log wrote itself. Agent RC viewed history. Agent RC searched N. Cole Trust. The last line made me exhale. He wasn't going to sleep. He was going to hunt initials on a cracked phone screen and pretend it was just curiosity. When his shift ended, he paused under the vestibule lights and opened a browser, thumbs moving. Through the glass, I caught the search glow on his face, and 3 letters in the reflection on the marble N. C, before the door's side shut behind him. Suspicion had finally found a target. Not poverty. Not incompetence. Me. He thought I'd chosen strangers over blood. He wasn't wrong about the strangers. He was wrong about the choice. Let him follow the letters. Let him feel the mix he'd poured for me at that table betrayal, and the burn of being seen. The studio had one window and a folding table I pretended was a desk. I called counsel on speaker, pen ready. We reviewed the same 3 lines I keep under glass. No contact, no bailout, no exceptions. I authorized the next tranche to the relief fund. "Anonymous disbursement as usual," she said. "As usual," I answered, and wrote the word boundaries in my small black book until the ink went dark. On the observer console, a compliance broadcast rolled across every screen. Beware of off-platform recovery services. Report solicitations. Minutes later, a private ping hit Ryan's profile. Someone in his pod DM'd, "Side gigs, if you're underwater, DM me back." The system copied the thread to a review queue. His cursor hovered. He closed the chat. Good. Not virtue, maybe, just fear. I would take either if it kept him from bleeding others. Rent, though, doesn't care about compliance. After his shift, I let 2 cars between us and followed him to a garden-style complex 4 exits down the 10. Beige stucco, dead grass, a pool that had given up pretending to be blue. A sheet of paper flapped under his doorknob. Pay or quit in bold, the kind of font that doesn't blink. He pulled it free, read it twice like the letters might move if he stared hard enough, then crumpled it and smoothed it back out. The door opened on a chain. A landlord's voice filled the gap. "Tomorrow, 5 p.m. After that, Sheriff?" Ryan tried a smile that belonged to a different life. The chain stayed. Back in the studio, I ate over the sink and watched the 990 for our fun tick from pending to filed. Line items that look like numbers are really choices. I signed 1 more wire and turned my phone face down. The heater coughed. In the hallway, someone argued tenderly, the way people do when they're deciding who gets the blanket. By late evening, I was parked across from his building again. A security guard leaned on a rail, bored. A door slammed. Ryan came out with a trash bag over one shoulder and a banker's box that sagged at the corners. A lampshade rode the top like a hat, trying not to be ridiculous. He set everything on the curb and sat on the concrete with his elbows on his knees. He didn't cry. Pride in a thin jacket still tries to look tall. His phone lit his face. From my angle, I could see the reflected letters on the glass vestibule N, C, before his thumb flicked them into the dark. He opened the browser again, slower this time, as if the letters might cut. A rideshare rolled up. He waved it off and stood, shifting the bag from one shoulder to the other like the old backpacks I used to carry to his Saturday games. Across the lot, a bus wheezed, a long exhale. He lifted the box, then set it down, then lifted it again. Decision, then hesitation, then decision again. He looked toward the city in the way a person looks for a map without paper. He would hunt initials now, not for understanding, for leverage, for a place to put the heat. I put the car in gear, my hands steady, my jaw quiet. Lessons arrive differently depending on which side of the door you sleep on. The library's public terminals lined a wall like payphones from a city that forgot them. I took a seat 2 rows back where the screen glare caught on glass and told more than sound. Ryan logged in with a guest pass and typed with the urgency of someone building a map midfall. IRS 990. State Nonprofit Registry. Guide Star. His searches bloomed and closed, new tabs stacking like bad decisions. I watched the reflection in the window. NC. Relief Fund. Agent of Record. Mailing address. A law firm in Midtown. He leaned close, phone out, snapping pictures of the screen like the pages might run. He clicked a local news clip about anonymous donors aiding seniors scammed online. The byline mentioned initials only. He flinched as if the sentence had a hand. His jaw worked. He scrubbed a palm over his mouth and dialed, low voice under the library's hush. Mom, listen, he's not broke. He's paying strangers' bills through a trust. No, Cole, don't tell me that's coincidence. No, I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for an answer. Silence. Fine, I'll get it myself. He printed 2 pages, left them at the tray while the machine choked on a third. I didn't move. He doubled back for them, folded them twice, slid them into his pocket like contraband. On the way out, he stopped at the bulletin board, stared at a flyer for a tenants' clinic, as if even the font was judging him. At dusk, I saw him at the coffee stand across from Pioneer X, a cheap notebook open, circling the address he could have written in his sleep, and adding a time. He met a coworker outside the revolving door, asked something I couldn't hear. The man held up both hands in the I'm not nuts in its shape and kept walking. Ryan watched the elevators swallow him, then turned to study the employee exit where the night shift spills. Back in the car, I opened the observer console. His profile carried the new weight of sleeplessness, slower ticket resolution, more escalations, no chat violations. The triangles were quiet. The heat had gone somewhere else. Good. Let it go to work if it must. On a public-facing donor roll, I paged past our fund's filings, line after line with no names, just case numbers and amounts. They looked like receipts from a store that sells the same thing over and over, breathing room. I had kept my name out of it on purpose. Initials were a compromise I shouldn't have made. Pride never stays as anonymous as it promises. Night came down the way it always does here. Fast and without apology. He took up a position in the shadow of a column, shoulders squared to the door, the cheap notebook in his back pocket. Not hiding. Not asking. Waiting. It isn't contrition that holds a body like that. It's a plan. I shut the laptop and let my reflection replace the dashboards. Tomorrow's shift change would cough people into the heat, and the lot would become a hallway without walls. If he wanted an answer, he would find a man who had one. I would not run my car past the corner this time. Heat lifted off the asphalt in shivers. Shift change coughed people into the light and scattered them across the lot, lanyards swinging, voices thin from long hours. I cut the engine and let the quiet settle. He stepped out from the column's shadow like he'd been practicing the entrance. Answer me, he said. No hello. The phone was already chest-high, camera black glass pointed at my face. You're not broke. You're paying strangers' bills through a trust with your initials. While our lights went out. What kind of father does that? The kind who won't finance contempt, I said. My voice stayed even. I could feel the sun on the side of my neck, a slow burn. Put the phone down. No, he snapped. Say it. Say you chose them over me. Say you've been hiding money to teach me a lesson. You're a wallet in a wedding ring and a coward in a cardigan. Behind him, a gull screamed at a dumpster. A car alarm coughed once and thought better of it. I'm a seed investor, I said plain. I helped build what pays your wages to sit in there and help frighten people on the worst night of their lives. I also fund a relief arm, quietly, because the damage you hear on those calls is real. His laugh was a hard, small thing. Hero to strangers, ghost at home. You had money. You watched us drown. I watched you toast my disappearance, I said. You wanted a life without me. You have it. Not because I picked them over you, Because I will not be used by you. He took a step closer, phone up, eyes bright with a kind of hunger that isn't about food. You owe me? Blood owes. You don't get to disappear and play mysterious benefactor while your family eats in the dark. You don't get to hide behind initials. I don't hide, I said. I set boundaries. Respect is the only currency I accept. He flinched, then rage put its hand back on his shoulder. You think a fortune buys you wisdom? It buys you arrogance. Open the trust. Transfer what's mine. Or I'll make sure everyone knows what you are. I'll post the filings. You can post whatever you like, I said. You'll get comments. You won't get cash. This isn't a negotiation. He dropped the hand holding the phone just long enough to jab a finger at my chest. You're not a father. You're a machine that broke at the first sign of maintenance. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I stopped being an appliance and became a man who expects to be spoken to like one. A breeze dragged heat across the lot. The visor in the next car clicked as it cooled. People passed, glanced, chose their own lives. He swallowed hard, jaw working, then thrust the phone up again, as if the red recording dot could force an answer to change. I won't fund you, I said. Not now. Not while you talk to me like this. Not while your mouth is a blade you keep pretending is a joke. He stood there breathing through his teeth, the way angry men breathe before they decide to do something they'll regret. He didn't move. He wanted me to fill the silence with a compromise. I didn't. I opened my door. The soft seal of it closing felt like a period at the end of a long sentence. Through the glass I watched him mouth a word I didn't need to hear. He hit the trunk of his car with his palm and winced at his own pain. I turned the key. The engine caught. The radio flashed a station and went quiet. He stepped forward like he might plant himself in my path, then stepped back, pride warring with the part of him that had learned, finally, that the world doesn't move just because he shouts. I pulled away, heat trembling in the mirrors, his outline shrinking into the wash of light and exhaust. The lesson was the silence between his demand and my answer. The diner had fake pine garlands looped over the pass, and the parade muted on the television. I took the corner booth. Turkey special, coffee, no pie. Outside, the parking lot shone with yesterday's rain like a promise nobody signed. My inbox hummed once. New address, new life, same last name in the sender line. The subject read, "Let's be adults." The body was what it always is when someone uses that line, demands dressed as reason. Bullet points. You owe me. Screenshots of articles about trusts, as if the law were a lever. Not one word that weighed anything. Not respect, not apology, not the smallest admission that he'd turned me into furniture and called it love. I read it once. Then I selected archive. Not reply, not forward. Not argue point 3 with link 4. When you leave a door closed long enough, the handle stops calling your name. On my phone, the fun portal wore its usual gray. Case 67421, 73 pensioner phishing by SMS. Utilities cut scheduled for Monday. The caseworker's note stayed spare, professional, tender where it could be. Reimbursement recommended. Hardship verified. I scrolled the documents like a man walking a quiet street. I clicked approve. The meter would not click off for them. Not this week. The waitress set down my coffee. You doing okay today? The question people ask each other on holidays, because the calendar gives them courage. I am, I said. You? She smiled without needing to perform it. Double shift. My mom's watching the game with the sound on so I don't miss much. She topped off the cup. Holler if you need pie. I watched a float drift silently down a New York street I've never loved. A marching band hit a formation that looked like a key from above. I signed the check, left cash, and a tip that understood time on your feet is a bill you pay with your back. My phone buzzed again. This time from the fund. Confirmation. The utility had posted a credit. A tiny room somewhere would stay warm. Gratitude travels strangely. It doesn't make a sound when it lands right. It just lifts something you were bracing to carry and lets your hands fall. I stepped outside into desert air that had finally remembered how to be cool. Traffic on the 17 held its steady hiss. I could have opened the email again and reread the case he tried to make of me. I could have written a letter that used every careful word I have to show him where the bridge is and what it costs to cross. Instead, I put the phone away and stood there long enough to hear my own breath balance back out. Boundaries aren't a wall. They're a map. The legend is short: respect or do not enter. I turned toward the car. A family of 5 came in under the bell, the youngest dragging a stuffed bear by one ear. "Say thank you," a mother reminded, and the boy did, soft and perfect, as if the word had weight in his mouth. At the curb, my reflection held still in the diner window. A year ago, I was a wallet with a wedding ring. Tonight, I was a man eating dinner with his own name on the check and his hands clean of the old bargain. Gratitude can't be bought, and I'm done offering it on credit. The lesson is simple and sharp. Money can keep the lights on, but only respect keeps a home alive. Gratitude isn't taught by speeches over turkey. It's taught by absence and boundaries that don't bend. A father can love and still say no to contempt. Before God, dignity isn't priced in dollars, and silence sometimes teaches faster than anger. This isn't revenge, it's a family story about responsibility, discipline, and the cost of ignoring what really matters until the bill comes due. And in the quiet lineage of Grandpa stories, growth begins when we name our own part in the harm. What lingers is small and precise. The carving knife set down instead of thrown, the soft click when the meter died, a diner receipt signed by a man keeping his own name. One button approved sending warmth to a stranger, because suffering is real whether anyone believes you or not. May God give us the calm to set boundaries without cruelty, and the courage not to treat kin like a wallet with a pulse. If you came looking for a family story to remind you that love needs rules, remember the night a father walked out to keep his worth. And if you were raised on Grandpa's stories about gratitude, you know that sometimes no is how love stays true. If this closing touched you, share one thing you've learned about boundaries and thankfulness in the comments. Your family story might steady someone else today. Pass this along to anyone who could use Grandpa's stories that heal more than they hurt. And may God keep our hearts soft yet steady as we choose what to carry and what to finally set down.